Hey guys, round two. Head of DBS Bank talks oil trade and all kinds of great stuff. I'm going to give you my commentary.
It's an amazing story.
So let's get into the banking world and some
Let's
of
get
the
into
cross currents. I talked, as you saw, with Roberto Acevedo about the power of the dollar and being used as a weapon.
Yes.
I think it's great to...
All right, this is really important, guys. We're gonna talk all about this during this session, about what's happening with the U.S. dollar around the world and what other governments are doing. Let me play a little bit more, and we'll start to get into the information.
Get value-added assessment and analysis from somebody sitting in Singapore. Do you see the U.S. dollar fading away anytime soon, or the rise of the renminbi at a faster pace than most are expecting? Because we're trying to look at here the near term.
Okay, that's a very good question. Before I answer the question, let me give you a slight preamble to it.
Sure.
When the Roman controlled the roads, they controlled the world. That was called the Roman Empire.
Yes.
When the British controlled the sea, they controlled the world. That was called the British Empire. So the Americans came along and thought if they control air and space, they will control the world. And so they were shocked when Russians sent Sputnik into space in 1957, and they were shocked when Yuri Gagarin went to space in 1961. And then John F. Kennedy retort was that let's put a man on the moon. And actually, because of that race, in 1969, the Apollo 11 landed on the moon. And that was really the start of the third industrial revolution, which was the digital age. Now, I digress a little bit from your question.
Makes sense. I follow you.
I really like this guy, guys. This is why I have two clips. I have another video that might come out with the same gentleman. He has so much good knowledge, but that's what really started the kickoff. And now we're here in the fourth industrial revolution as we go and digitize and tokenize everything basically of value in the world.
But the reason why why today is the American empire is really because of the US dollar. President Nixon, I don't know whether he realized it,
This happened in 1971 when President Nixon took us off the gold standard.
He packed US dollar from gold, which gave America the ability to print money. It really made America the most powerful nation in the world. You look at QE1, you look at QE2, you look at QE infinity. Not billions, not hundreds of billions, the trillions of dollars that's being printed is probably backed by the paper it's printed on. So, put simply, it's backed by confidence and confidence alone.
True.
Now, to touch on an earlier point about weaponization, the American weaponizing the US dollar in this as we speak today, actually undermine the only thing that's propping up the US dollar. The only thing propping up the US dollar is confidence and confidence alone. And by weaponizing the US dollar, it might be good in the short term, but in the long term, there's tremendous repercussion for the country.
Yeah, so you're not a supporter of it, obviously.
So what he's talking about, and I went into this in my last video, but when Russia went to war with Ukraine, the US and allies sought out to shut Russia out of most of its bank accounts, usually in different countries that were connected with the SWIFT system. So they locked Russia out of, I think, hundreds of billions of dollars at this point, and other countries looked at this as, am I next if I do something the US or NATO allies don't like? And this is a big problem around the world. And this really shook confidence in the US dollar. And we are seeing the repercussions of that with BRICS nations coming together and using their own currencies to trade now with oil and gas. And that gets into the OPEC agreement. The OPEC agreement, if you don't know, is if you're around the world, whatever country you're in, you're trading in US dollars for that oil or for those goods. And when you have countries now saying, hey, the US dollar, not what we want to use. We want to use our own currencies. We want to use maybe an asset-backed currency. They can make currencies now backed by gold, backed by oil, backed by natural gas. All of these things can be created, and then they can start moving value in between each other with that. Or they can digitize. China has the renminbi that's CBDC. There's all these, I think, rupee is India, renminbi is China. And these countries are now doing this, and it's bringing the confidence away from the US dollar. And once of these countries really get into all of this stuff, it's going to be a lot of trouble for the US dollar, and it could be the end of the US dollar coming up. And we're witnessing the precursor for all of that now, which was happening. So what's going to happen next? I don't know, but you can better believe I'll keep you updated on this channel.
I'm not a supporter of it. Yes.
Very interesting. Yeah. What do you think of this move by China asking to pay for its oil and gas to Saudi Arabia? What does that tell you about China?
Okay. China has been wanting to do that for a number of years, I think. And the Saudi has never agreed to it until this month, actually. So it's a tremendous...
And since this summit happened, guys, that's exactly what they're doing. Saudi Arabia, China working together, trading not in the US dollar.
A significant decision. And I'll tell you why I say that. Now, you look back in 1971, when the US dollar from gold. Why would anybody want US dollar? Because right now, we don't know what it's backed by. But the fact that the US dollar is the dominant reserve currency in the world until today is because they have an agreement with the Saudis that oil, a most crucial commodity, is bought and sold in US dollar. By having it, that's why the term petrodollar came about.
Yes.
And because of that, the demand for dollar was always there. And because the demand of the dollar was always there, even when they depack US dollar from gold, when we know it may not be backed by anything, dollar continued to be a strong reserve currency. So this month, the decision by the Saudi government to let Seoul in renminbi, I think it's a significant, tremendous significant decision. Okay, I don't know whether the Saudis are aware, but by agreeing to the US to trade oil in US dollar, they were probably a major reason why today is the American empire as we know it today.
So the reason the Saudis agreed to this back in 71 is the U.S. agreed to protect Saudi Arabia from anybody that maybe attacked them. Also to provide weapons. Weapons were something that Saudi Arabia was short on in the 70s, and the U.S. we had a lot of things laying around. So we agreed to supply them with arms and protection, and they agreed to trade oil in the U.S. dollar.
The Saudis have really contributed to the US dollar is in today. And this recent decision to use renminbi, I think, has significant implication in the long run.
Good. I wasn't planning to go in this direction with you, but I think it's very interesting, and you're super smart. Why don't we get the wider implications of strained Saudi-U.S. relations? Again, looking at it from that vantage point, I don't think we've seen this level of tensions in the last 4 years under President Trump and even with Joe Biden between Washington and Beijing right now. Does this get worse? Is this the next shock that people want to know about?
To catch you up, guys, also too happening right now, currently, the U.S. was supposed to go to China this week, actually, to meet with them to try to mend bridges. Anthony Blinken was supposed to go and meet with them. I think he's in charge of like world affairs. I can't remember his exact title, but Anthony Blinken's a very important person, and he was supposed to go meet with the Chinese and try to mend some of this. The balloon incident that started through Canada, went over a bunch of states, and then we ended up shooting it down 5 miles off the coast of North Carolina, stopped that trip. So tensions are even more broken at this point. The reason the U.S. waited to shoot that thing down is because it was overpopulated areas and they wanted to recover the satellite and the spying equipment. So they say, we don't know if it was a weather balloon or spy equipment. It makes more sense that it was some type of both weather equipment mixed with some spy equipment, but they wanted to recover that. I think the balloon was 3 bus sizes big, including the satellite or whatever the thing it was bringing across the country. And they shot the balloon down, flowed down, and they want to or have been recovering the China's satellite or whatever was on that balloon. They are working to recover it.
At the WGS in 2022?
Okay, this is a tough question, and this question is slightly above my pay grade.
All right, let's back it up because...
Does this get worse? Is it the last 4 years under President Trump and even with Joe Biden between Washington and Beijing right now? Does this get worse? Is this the next shock that people want to know about at the WGS in 2022?
Okay, this is a tough question, and this question is slightly above my pay grade. But let me try. And,
I don't see you shying away, though.
Let me try. When you have the 2 largest economies in the world, and if they were best of friends, it would be good for everybody. And the world is really in harmony and we trade with one another. When you have 2 of the largest economies in the world and the animosity among the 2 of them, it makes it very difficult for the smaller nations around. We are like when 2 elephant fights, we get trampled on. Now, would the world move from globalization to regionalization? Would there be some form of bifurcation? Is globalization dead? I think it's under stress. I don't think it's dead. I think Roberto mentioned earlier, the way we are connected, the way technology binds together, I just don't see how we can reverse back that we are so interconnected. Hopefully the relationship is right now under stress, but one day they will kiss and make up and we'll live happily ever after.
But this nearshoring and regional trade amongst ASEAN, do you think it'll accelerate? Is that the one lesson out of the pandemic as opposed to being protectionist? Do you find like a Goldilocks scenario where you do balance out your sourcing?
Okay, that is a good point too. I think it is a Goldilocks scenario. But given what has happened, there is a certain form of national agenda whereby we can't be too dependent. Just like I think Roberto mentioned earlier, you have to say that sometimes it might cost a little bit more, but you want some production in your own country. Just that you're not 100% dependent on somebody. What we have seen the last 2 years show that this is like maybe it's a tail risk, but it is a risk that happens. So I think it will accelerate ASEAN, intra-ASEAN trade, and probably within the Asia-Pacific region with China. China is a big player, like it or not, in our backyard.
I know, absolutely. Yeah. So it accelerates. This is the...
Guys, just Sam Lim from DBS Bank is really has an incredible mind. The way that he speaks and the way that he brings information forward, I just truly love. I hope you learned something, guys. If you did, share with somebody. Help me grow the channel. I can't do it without you.